Hi guys, this is Miss Ware. For today's lesson, we are going to talk about quality control purposes that have to do with implementing, creating, implementing, and delivering training. And not only training, but good quality training, which is very important. Anybody can present any type of information, but the key is to present information that is of high quality, information that is realistic, obtainable for the learner, and it's accurate. All of those things are very important in presenting any type of training. So let's get started. As I am going over this, I have each slide, which is kind of like a little shell of what I'm going to speak about. So you can take down your notes as I am going over this. So, what is quality control? Well, quality control ensures that materials, information, content, as we spoke about just a second ago, is of high quality, and that is so important. We don't want to be teaching junk to people. We want it to help our learners become more motivated to learn, motivated at work. So we want our training to come across as not just some boring information. We want it to maybe have a little bit of humor in it. We want it to be relatable, because that's the only way that our learners are going to have any interest, okay? Because otherwise it's just a boring presentation. The way to get through to people is with those ways. So also, we want to make sure that the materials, the information, the content is presented in a way that meets the needs of the learners. If you're presenting all this wonderful information, but it has nothing to do with the participants, let's say participants instead of learners every time, but the participants in the training program, who are most likely in the program because they have to be. It's not by choice. Usually the organization hires you to come in, conduct training analysis, needs analysis, learner analysis, task analysis, figure out, listen to the problem that's going on or the issue or whatever the need is for you to be brought in, and to conduct all those forms of analysis to figure out what the best information, problem-solving skills, maybe new knowledge, maybe just practice, maybe it's methods. It could be a million things that need to be brought to the employee's attention that will better suit their overall performance at work. So it's important to make sure that you're presenting information that is obtainable, realistic, informational, current, reliable. You never want to present information that is wrong. You never want to present information that has nothing to do with what the employees do at their work. That's why it is important to perform all needs of analysis, which we will get into those here in just a moment. So, how is quality control important in training purposes? Well, quality control is important in any type of training or any type of, honestly, learning. If you think about it, a teacher before they meet their students, maybe they know that they are going to have 9 students that have IEPs. Well, that means they get special education services. Well, the teacher automatically knows that they should probably look at the IEPs of these students, which are always transferred over, excuse me, during the summer. I am battling bronchitis, so that's why my voice sounds a little funny, and I have to take little breaths every now and then. But the children who have IEPs, the teacher is going to automatically know, I need to know more about these students. I need to know what maybe their goals are that I have to meet. The special education teacher has to make sure that they are met. You also have accommodation and modifications in the classroom. Well, I should probably look at those because I'm going to need to add that into my lessons every day. The content's going to need to be presented on the grade level of the student. You can't, the student may be in middle school, but they may be on a first grade level. Well, you know what? It's important to present information that they can understand too, not just, these big words, or maybe a task that involves multiple steps, and that may be things that these students would struggle with, and you would know all of those things from the IEP. The IEP kind of gives you a little, trying to think of the word, a little insight into needs assessment, needs analysis, without ever having to meet the student. And that is not always the case. Even with training purposes, we don't always know what the prior skill knowledge is, what the needs are. So we have to take our best guess and use our best judgment. And that's why it's important to understand quality control. So quality control allows for the developer to use a systematic process to achieve an outcome that is successful. This is important for training purposes, because the developer always wants good results, as well as the organization. You never want to be paid to come in and teach someone something and it to be irrelevant or not even in the field of anything that was needed in the first place. So quality control makes sure that you take these steps to make sure that all of the information is correct, it's gained towards the correct audience, you've thought about your audience, you know what the problem is, you have a solution. I mean, it just depends on what you're delivering as far as training purposes, but those are some examples. Otherwise, no one will hire you. And if you deliver ineffective content, strategies, methods for the organization, that kind of defeats the purpose of you having a career in developing and implementing, training, or even a seminar or a mini workshop, whatever you want to call it. So let's talk about the systematic process to achieve successful quality control for training purposes. Needs assessment. Well, we kind of spoke about that just a moment ago, which had to do with analysis. And needs assessment, you need to figure out what you want the training solution to be, and the organization can give you that information, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just tell you what's going on, and it's your job to figure out what needs to be delivered here. They're going to conduct a pre-test to understand what the learners already know and what they do not know, so you can know where to start as far as presenting content to these individuals. You're going to also create an assessment design for mastery, so you're going to understand or come up with the idea of what you want your training solution to be. You're going to use that as well as your pretest to understand what needs of assessment need to be implemented in order to gain mastery of the content. You're also going to want to make sure, again, that all information gathered is reliable and accurate. The next slide, design framework. The framework is the layout of the content. The structure includes, how information is presented, when, has to do with timing, organization of information. Losing my breath. The training solution, is it realistic? Is it obtainable? Those are the things that you need to think about next when you are developing training for quality control purposes, which is the step we are in now. Next, you are going to develop your materials. This is important because you've already conducted the pretest. You've gathered your information. You know it's reliable. You know it's accurate. You know you've created your assessment. You know what your training solution needs to be. So now you can create the materials to ensure that all errors are fixed, content is presented in a fluent manner, structure goes along with the overall information that's presented. You're going to also create a prototype and review it. And review it after you've created it. That's also very important. Revise materials. Revising materials ensures that the production of the final materials is accurate, error-free, appropriate, and effective. Revising and editing materials ensure quality, and not only quality for quality control purposes, as we're talking about, but also high-quality content. So basically, you're going to review and edit in this stage. Your pilot testing stage is, it goes back to the creation of materials where you're creating the prototype. Well, in this stage, the pilot testing stage, you're going to use that prototype and you are going to do a run through of the entire presentation. This is very good to do this on the next day, to not do all of this in the same day because you need to take a break from it. Come back to it with a fresh mind. This is the same thing when you want someone else to look over something. It's so you've completely detached yourself from what you were doing. Your mind is in a different mindset now, and you are able to see things differently. And that's very important during the pilot testing stage. So now you're going to implement your information. You're going to use the pilot testing stage that you came back to, went over the information, did a run through of the presentation yourself. Now you're going to get someone else to do this. You're going to conduct the training with 1, 2, however many people, and they are going to be there, and they are going to be your audience, and they're going to be the ones who are going to take down notes, write down questions that they had, things that maybe would confuse them, any errors they see, and they're going to give all that to you so you can go back and you can, last one, evaluate. You can use the evaluation from the prior stage, the implementing of the pilot testing stage, to improve your overall information, the overall content, and ways to evaluate can be done in many ways, especially with training purposes. It can be done through demonstration, performance, an interview, a survey, figuring out what the newly obtained knowledge is. There are just so many different ways that you can evaluate. So, we're going to use this to work on our assignment today. And thank you guys for listening.